Hello everyone, and welcome to the, I guess this is going to be the first review video for my reviews on The Bad Batch. So, yeah, I wanted to get this out last week, to go over the first two episodes, Aftermath and Cut and Run. But, just Sunday, something at lunch did not agree with me. It kind of gave me an upset stomach, and then that lasted into Monday as well, to where I just did not have the energy or did not feel well enough to work on videos on Sunday and Monday. So, and my computer had been acting up before then, automatically pushing through updates without my acknowledgement, so I couldn't record it over the weekend. So yeah, this is a very late video. And because of that, I'm not really going to be doing typical reviews this time around. First 3 episodes of Bad Batch, very good. I'm really enjoying it so far. It really does feel like Clone Wars Season 8, which is cool. Them returning to some story arcs that were set up in Clone Wars and then seeing a little bit more of a continuation on is cool. Seeing Cutler Quain and his family was great. I'm very interested in the Kaminoans this time around and what they're up to. Nala say specifically. Part of what makes it sort of kind of okay that I didn't end up putting this up is that I did host a live stream with a bunch of my friends where we did talk about the Bad Batch last Saturday. So that's in the TTV PSN fan community game night playlist. It's the most recent one, so you just have to basically scroll down to the bottom and it'll be there. We played some Battlefront 2 and talked Bad Batch. So if you want to hear some more in-depth thoughts on the first 2 episodes, it really was just the first episode at that point. But if you want to hear some more in-depth thoughts about that, then go watch like the first third of that live stream. We went for about 3 hours, and we talked about Bad Batch for about the first third of it, and then we got off on different topics and just played the game for the last 2/3. So today, instead of kind of, going over each individual episode, I'm more or less kind of going to be theorizing about where this series is going, because I've got a couple theories about things that may or may not happen. So, of course, full spoilers for the first 3 episodes of Bad Batch in this kind of review speculation video, whatever you want to call it, and then next week, I'll be looking over episode 4, and then the week after that, episode 5, and I'll be doing the traditional review thing. So this one will be a little different because of the circumstances surrounding the fact that I wasn't able to get it done earlier when I wanted it to. So here we are. So a lot of other people have been saying it, and I'm kind of leaning towards that myself, because it seems like we're going to see some form of it, but it seems like we might get a canonized version of the Kaminoan Rebellion from the original Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign from 2005. I'm not sure how close it will actually be to a rebellion. I think what's more likely is the Kaminoans kind of try to take matters into their own hands to maintain their contracts with the Empire, and then when that doesn't work, they maybe try to do something drastic that isn't necessarily complete and total rebellion, but can be maybe seen as that, and then the Empire just comes in and either stomps on them or takes out the leadership and assumes control of the Kaminoan factories. And of course, the big thing about this is, how is this tying into the main story? I think what is going to help tie this into the main story is, of course, a connection to Omega. And is she or is she not Force sensitive? I think that's the question. Because if the Kaminoans tried to maintain their contract and just say, hey, look at us, we've got more clones, and then the Empire says, no, we don't want clone troopers anymore, we want stormtroopers, then they're kind of out of luck. The Empire's moving on. But if they say, hey, look, we've got a new type of clone, and it's Force sensitive, I think that's an uh-oh, and the Kaminoans are not only out of a business, but out of the life game as well. I think that's when the Empire just comes in and wipes them out. Because as far as expanded media goes, comics, books, and stuff like that, I don't really think the Kaminoans have shown up post prequel era at all in the current canon, which is interesting. So maybe like the Geonosians, because the Geonosians are sort of kind of the Kaminoan equivalent, but for the Separatists, because they had the factories on Geonosis and everything, the droid factories. The Empire used the Geonosians to help build the Death Star, and then essentially wiped out all life on the planet, as we know from Star Wars Rebels and the Vader comics. So I think Palpatine hearing, oh, the Kaminoans have created a Force-sensitive clone, I don't think he's going to like that, and he's going to call for Kamino to be eradicated, which would be interesting because he just wiped out an army of Jedi to secure his position as one of the two sole Force users in the galaxy, and of course the Inquisitors are running around too. But they're nowhere near the power level that Vader and Palpatine are at. So they're disposable and honestly sending them to fight against Jedi. They're expendable. It's part of these guys surrendered. We're going to use them in ways that's probably going to get them killed anyway. So it's not a win. It's a win-win for Palpatine, not so much for the Inquisitors. So if he hears that the Kaminoans have the genetic material to make a Force-sensitive army, I don't think that's going to go well. I think Tarkin's going to come back in with a fleet of Star Destroyers and bombard them from orbit or something like that, and go, or come in with the clones, and they're going to kill all the Kaminoans and then just take over the facilities and move in themselves. So that could be interesting. So I definitely think that the show is kind of moving in that direction, that there is some form of situation that will happen on Kamino that maybe brings the Bad Batch back in like the last two episodes. Like the last two episodes are the season finale or whatever, and it's the battle for Kamino or something. So that could be interesting. So speaking of Omega, that brings me to to all theories surrounding her. Is she or is she not Force sensitive? If she's not Force sensitive, I'm kind of leaning towards maybe she is. But I could totally see an excuse being made to where she's not, and she just has heightened senses like Hunter, because she seems to be a lot like Hunter. She may even have heightened senses more than Hunter does. It's like she may not be completely Force sensitive, but she may have an enhanced midichlorian count that does allow her to somewhat connect to the Force. She may not be able to, like Jedi mind trick and levitate objects and Force lightning and stuff like that. But she may be able to, sense a few things before they happen, because in the EU, and I think maybe this has been stated in canon, but in the EU, it's been stated that beings that are Force sensitive, but maybe not completely Force sensitive to the point where they'd be able to be a Jedi, a full-on Force user, that then they would, they would still harmonize with the Force to a degree that, they'd be able to see things before they happen. They have really fast reflexes. They'd be good sports players, gamblers, something like that. I think the case could definitely be made that Omega is like that, to where she's not Jedi material. She wouldn't really be able to throw things around the room with her mind, but she can definitely feel things before they happen. She has some sort of intuition. She knows the whole knowing what's going on with Crosshair, that might just be down to she knows about the inhibitor chips, and it may not be a Force-sensitive thing. But, right before Crosshair opened the door to the hangar in Aftermath, she definitely kind of felt something. So I don't know if that was a premonition through the Force, or if she just has very heightened senses like Hunter, so she was able to hear him coming like a dog. Like dogs have better hearing than humans, something like that. So if maybe she has advanced hearing, but... So I think what's the deal with Omega? Is she Force sensitive? I think that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then also, I think maybe she's going to die? Question mark? Which would be interesting. My basis for this is Kevin Kiner, the composer for Clone Wars and Rebels and now Bad Batch. He put on Twitter like 2 days ago, it's like, yeah, I'm working on the finale to Bad Batch. Is it normal to cry over a single cue because you've been working so hard on it? Now, that could be taken a multitude of ways. Maybe they really want to nail this cue, and he's been working so hard on it that he's burst into tears because of the exhaustion of working on this cue. That's possible. It's also possible that he means that it's such an emotional cue that even when, working it out and figuring out what this musical cue is going to sound like, it's been causing him to cry because of the context of the scene. That's also possible. So if that's what it is, I think maybe Omega's gonna bite it. Just because it's a character that is created for Bad Batch, we haven't heard from her. I mean, this is the same argument for for characters from Rebels and Clone Wars and stuff. It's like, well, Captain Rex and Ahsoka weren't in the movie, so that means they gotta die by the time the war ends. It's like, no, not necessarily. So just because they haven't shown up in any media after when they show, so that doesn't necessarily mean they're immediately gonna die. But considering we are in this transitionary phase in the galaxy, the Republic is no more, the Separatists have been annihilated, their leadership anyway, battle droids have been turned off, the Republic has now been reformatted into the Empire, the Jedi are no more. I think this is definitely a time period where there is no hope. There is no good things that happen. Small bands of, I'm just going to say, rebels, like the Bad Batch, are maybe out there and they survive for a little bit, but the Empire is pretty quick in coming in and shutting them down. So maybe they could try to lay low as much as possible, but they're going to be constantly on the run. Crosshair is going to be hunting them, obviously. So I think it's definitely possible that Omega does not survive, which I think could be interesting because Star Wars is not necessarily shied away from killing kids in the past. I mean, you look all the way back to A New Hope. The Empire blew up a planet. How many kids were on Alderaan? There wasn't any kids on screen that we saw, but you have to assume there's probably families and stuff on Alderaan, so a lot of kids got blown up there. So, and then of course, big moment, Revenge of the Sith, Anakin walks into the Jedi Temple, Master Skywalker, there are too many of them, what are we going to do? Lightsaber turns on, we don't see those kids again, they're dead. We also saw a bunch of the younglings from Season 5 of Clone Wars dead in that hallway in that Force vision that Yoda saw in Season 6. Of course, that wasn't really real, it was a Force vision, but still, you get the point. So Star Wars has never really shied away from killing kids in the past. Oh, also, Attack of the Clones, I killed them, but not just the men, but the women and the children too. The Tusken Raiders that Anakin slaughtered to avenge his mother. So, so I think it's definitely possible that Omega doesn't make it out of this. I mean, she's probably, 2 or 3 years old if she's got accelerated aging, but she's more like 8 or 9 physically and mentally. So, I mean, she's a kid, but an older kid. So, I mean, I could see it happening because, Grogu, I didn't think there was any way they were going to kill Grogu in Mandalorian, ever, because, he's like, he's 50 years old, but he ages differently than humans, and so mentally and physically, he's still just a baby. He's a child, the child. So there's no way they kill a baby. That's too far. But, Omega, I don't know. I'm not quite sure if she's going to be safe. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Returning characters is also something I'm interested in this show. I think we're going to see Caleb Doom again. In an interview, when asked about it, the creatives were very non-committal. Because if he's not going to show up again, then just say so. It's like, no, he's only in the first episode. When asked if he was going to show up again, the creatives and writers and stuff were like, oh, well, it's a big galaxy. You never know who you're going to run into. And it's like, yeah, okay, he's coming back. It seemed pretty obvious to me. So I think we're going to see Caleb Doom again. We're going to further override the Kanan Last Padawan comic, which irritates me to no end. I'm not even going to get into that because I got into that back during my Mandalorian reviews. So if you really want to see my thoughts on that, go back to the first episode of Mandalorian Season 2 and me talking about Cobb Vanth and how that's kind of irritating that they're overwriting canon, which was the whole point of the canon, is that there wasn't going to be any everything is equal. TV shows matter just as much as movies, as much as books, as much as comics, but maybe that's starting to change after a couple of years, which is annoying. But anyway, I'm not going to get into it. So. I think it's definitely possible that we maybe see the younglings from Season 5 of Clone Wars, because we haven't seen them, because it's kind of a rule in a lot of fiction that if you don't see a body, they're not necessarily guaranteed dead, so we don't know what happened to those younglings. I think it's safe to assume that the 501st got them when Anakin marched on the temple in Revenge of the Sith, but not confirmed. So, I think it's potential. We could potentially see them. Maybe not all of them. Maybe some of them did get killed off, but maybe a couple of them. It would be cool if we saw like Katuni hanging out on Florum with Hondo. It's like that's the safest place for her at that point is with a bunch of pirates. We're just saying something. That I think that could be interesting. We're obviously seeing Fennec Shand coming back. We've known that for a while. We've seen Tarkin, Saw Gerrera. Rex is going to be in there. I think it's a safe bet to say Ahsoka is going to be in it as well. That she'll pop up with Rex, and then they just didn't show her in the trailers because they're saving it for the big surprise. So yeah, I'm really liking this show so far. I think it's pretty good, and we will see where things go from here. So that's kind of my little predictions video, seeing where things will go. And then next week I'll be back with a kind of normal. Here's a typical review of the episode, like I usually do. So yeah, that'll be it for this video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Those links are in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.